talk about.
It's quite poor. Hello, my name is Ian. This channel is all about music and art, and this is where we talk about music and art. And in this series of videos, we've been looking at what's been happening regarding music streaming in the UK. The UK government's Digital Culture, Media and Sports Committee have been looking into the ways that the streaming platforms and other large record companies manage payments to songwriters, musicians and performers. And on the 15th of October 2020, UK Parliament published a news article stating that the Digital Culture, Media and Sports Committee were going to inquire into the impact of the streaming on the future of the music industry. The article stated that the inquiry would consider whether the government should take action to protect the industry from piracy in the wake of steps taken by the EU on copyright and intellectual property rights. Now, I knew that there were some high-profile musicians and music industry types who were giving evidence to the committee. And the first of these meetings was on the 24th of November 2020, with another meeting on the 8th of December. And now these were long meetings lasting over 3 hours. So what I've done is I've decided to edit them down into shorter videos, and the links to all the previous meeting videos are in the description down below. It's worth giving a background to the witnesses giving evidence in this second session of January the 19th, 2021. First, we have Tony Harlow, Chief Executive of Warner Music UK. Harlow has just taken over as Chief Executive as of this month, February 2021, and he joined WMG in 2010 as Managing Director of Australasia, where he grew a reputation for breaking talent early, artists such as Ed Sheeran and Dua Lipa. Most recently, he's been president of WEA, the Global Artist and Label Services arm of WMG. What a lot of acronyms. Where he helped transform operations and expand streaming-focused markets, as well as the oversee addition to direct-to-consumer expertise from Songkick, EMP and UPROXX. Don't quite know what that is, but he's well placed to look at this sort of stuff. Next we have Jason Iley, Chairman and Chief Executive of Sony Music UK and Ireland. Iley is an MBE, former President of Rock Nation Records and the UK Chief of Mercury Records. He heads up all of Sony Music's activity in the UK and Ireland, overseeing Sony Music's frontline and imprint labels across the whole region, including the operations of Columbia Records, Epic, RCA, Serco, Commercial Group, Relentless, Insanity, Since 1903, Dream Life Records and Black Butter. It's a lot of record labels, isn't it? And lastly, we have David Joseph, who is the Chairman and Chief Executive of Universal Music Group and Ireland. Joseph joined the company in August 1998 as General Manager of the company's Polydor label, before moving up in February 2002 to become Managing Director and later Co-President of Polydor. In March 2008, he was promoted to Chairman and CEO of Universal Music UK, and since then he oversees their labels Ireland, Polydor, Capitol, Decca and EMI, as well as the world famous recording studio Abbey Road. All of the sessions for these committees were chaired by Julian Knight, and the complete list of committee members and the relevant links are in the description down below. This recording is made in agreement with the UK Parliament Terms and Conditions, which states I cannot alter the video and audio of the recording in any way. I can't use this material for satire or use it on a website or social media platform that promotes, encourages or facilitates illegal activity or encourages hatred and antisocial behaviour. So here is part 4 of session 2 from the 19th of January 2021 into the economics of music streaming.
Thank you. Damien Hines.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I ask you, Tony? So there's been a lot of focus on the share of the streaming revenue that goes to record labels. But I want to ask about the share that goes to the streaming platform, which seems to be remarkably high. I just wonder why you allow that. Is it ingratitude for having been saved from the pirates, or is it more to do with the market dominance of a handful of leading platforms?
It's a difficult question to answer because every single streaming platform and our relationship with them is subject to an individual negotiation.
But there are a small number of very large ones, aren't there?
Absolutely. And what I was going to go on to say is it's a two-way negotiation. We have rights in music, they have their interests, and we get the negotiation which is not hidden in any way and governed by the market to the best place we can for our artists. As David says, the difference as I see it is our interests are 100% aligned with our artists. We are interested in licensing our copyrights, albeit on fair terms. We'll make the odd decision around something like freemium or free music, where we think we can expand the market and that pool that I talked about several times before. Platforms support music, but ultimately they are delivering for the economics of their platform. I can't really speak to whether they're getting the right amount. I've seen public comment on some of them not being financially, not making money. They might argue themselves. I think when you speak to those platforms, you should ask them about the amount they take.
Well, don't worry, Tony, we will. And I want to come on to freemium in a moment. But just now, so do you recognise the figure of about 30% of total revenue going to the platforms? And given everything you have on your side, you have all the content, you have all the talent, you have all the entertainment. Does that level of remuneration for the platform not suggest something of an imbalance in power?
It's the result of a market-led negotiation, and I don't think I can comment on whether that's what I think about that level. I think they have substantial and huge costs. They also run in globally, and they have many staff. But I really think you have to direct that question towards the DSPs.
Mr. Hines, I would like to say we have fierce negotiations with the DSPs. They're ongoing all the time. I really. It's important to say that when our artists win, we win. When we win, our artists win. Anything we could do to make that as big a share as possible. I think you'll find some comments from them about, one maybe about Safe Harbour and Article 17 and the fact that it can be free on YouTube. And one may be this, we've got lots of overheads and lots of data and lots of technology. So a bit like the old record store days when they have a margin. I'm all for the platforms to get remuneration for what they put into the market, and I'd like as many services and tech platforms as possible for the fan. But yes, we argue all the time over how much of that should be for the labels and the artists.
We are very, very short of time. I want to turn to Jason, please, and ask about freemium. So back to the old days that David was talking about, I mean, you wouldn't give away your clients' work for free, apart from the occasional flexi disc sellotaped on the front of a magazine. With freemium, aren't you effectively just financing the expansion of these platforms? Why would you give away your clients' work for free like that in the interest of the platform?
Well, services such as Spotify are ad funded, and my personal view is we would much rather that the ad funded model was not there. That actually the people literally went to subscription straight away. That's 95% of our revenue comes from the subscription model. Spotify argue very, very strongly that ad funded model is the funnel into subscription. But
Jason, of course, Spotify say that. That's how they grow their market share, by giving the product away for free, financed by this massively reduced royalty that goes to you and your artists, and then they can convert some of those people in time to paying customers. Of course, they say that.
The revenue from the ad funded model is incredible. It's 5%. The subscription model is 95%. And if their model says that as a result, and I understand your point,
by revenue, not by numbers, right? By revenue, not by volume.
I don't disagree. I would get, and quite frankly, if the ad funded model went tomorrow, I'd be delighted. But Spotify's business model says it works for them. And again, I think that's a conversation you should have with them. I sympathize with your point. I'm not disagreeing with you. But that's what their business model says, is that part helps increase subscribers. I'm with you.
let me turn to Tony for my final question. So you could say that this situation works very well for most people. It works well for the platforms who are growing their income. It works well for record labels because you get stable income from subscription services. And actually, arguably, it works very well for the consumer because you can get an awful lot of music for an affordable price. But arguably, it doesn't work so well for those consumers in the medium term if artist development and new talent hasn't shared in that success in the same way. How do you react to that?
I'm assuming, sorry, Damien, to be difficult, but by this situation, you mean the current balance?
Yeah, absolutely. The move to streaming, the move away from piracy before, but also, frankly, the move away from physical sales back in the day. The fact you've now got consumers paying a fixed monthly price, a very predictable revenue stream for the label, and actually a relatively affordable price for most people in terms of the vast amount of music they can get for it.
Well, I think our answer to that would be along the lines of, it's still a pretty new industry. Someone spoke about this earlier. The balance is still there. When we talk about share of digital music, in reality across the world, digital music is about 65%. It's been a thing for, as we've said, for maybe 5 or 6 years. If you consider the lifespan of the CD or vinyl, 30 years, the economics are working their way through. And as I said in my answer to Mr. Brennan, increasingly we're seeing larger and larger numbers of artists who are getting to the million stream, the billion stream, the multi-billion stream, and we're seeing that grow all the time as the economics of this industry work better and better. They're all about how much consumption there is, and all of these different answers. When you go back to your freemium answer, it's all about the maximum number of people encountering music, falling in love with music, like David, Jason, and I all did 30 odd years ago, and enjoying music, and then gradually saying music has value. That's something that we as a company, we're always fighting for the value of music. And that is how I would look at that situation. This is an evolving situation. It's being well governed by a market that's efficient and nimble, and it doesn't need any change, and any disruption could diminish UK competitiveness at a time when I feel the UK needs to be the home of recorded music, just as it is by providing 1 in 10 streams around the world, by being the number 2 export business. We need to be getting on with making the UK the absolute best place to invest in music.
Thank you, Tony. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you. Damien Green.
Thank you, Chair. David, Universal didn't sell its stock when Spotify went public. Do you understand why these cross-holdings and so on give rise to the thought that the biggest players in this industry are, if not a technical oligopoly, something close to it?
Who wants to answer that?
David.
Sorry, it was for me. I can only speak so on behalf of Universal. In terms of your question on equity, some record labels were awarded small shares of equity in some streaming service when the services were first set up. Some labels, has been discussed, have already sold that equity and shared the proceeds with their artists. Universal's made it very clear to our managers and artists that if we were to sell any equity, it will also share the proceeds with its artists. And that's something we discussed with all of our managers. We've made it very clear on that, the equity shared with the artists.
Sure, I mean, I think that's all fair enough.
It's good for the art. I think the fact that we managed to get it and the fact that it will be shared with the artist puts another form of income revenue straight into the artist's hands. I think it's a very positive thing for the market.
But the suspicion will arise that obviously it could lead to anti-competitive influences when it comes to licensing or playlisting and so on. Can you assure us that kind of thing doesn't happen?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, streaming has democratized the entire industry, Mr. Green, in terms of, I mentioned before that majority of the artists that we sign already have some of their musical footprint already on these services. So it's hugely competitive in terms of licensing, but we want obviously the best deals that we can for our artists and our investment from all of the platforms. And if I may say it again, I think, we've had 15 years of decline. If I've lived through that decline and what it was like to work in the music industry, we're starting to grow. All of our artists, and this is essential, are global from day one. It's a growing industry. We're great at it. We're less than 1% of the world's population and 10% of the world's music consumed. I do not think streaming services are perfect. I think there's lots we can do more for the artists, and that's stuff that I want to discuss. It's hard against this backdrop of YouTube and 70% of the music of our artists being consumed and giving us only 5% of our revenues. So I'd love more that we can get for our artists from any service all the time. That's the point. That's the point of all the deals that we do, representing our artists in a growing UK economy, and to add an export business that we should be deeply proud of. So it really is a growing industry. And I have to say, we've had 15 years of piracy and decline, and the music is still available for free. We're losing around 200 million a year through piracy. So if there's anything we can do on that side, or if that's something you'd look into, I think you'd find our artists incredibly grateful for that.
I'm sure that's right. I mean, Steve Bryan talked about the evidence we had from Nadine Shah, but I mean, looking at an artist from another generation, we've all had an email from Sandy Shaw saying that with British record companies being bought up, our crown jewels are gone, this is quoting her, and there's currently no such thing as the UK record industry. So it's interesting for all that you say, across the generations, the artists are, to put it mildly, clearly deeply suspicious of the majors. So what can you say to them to try and reassure them?
I can only speak on behalf of our artists. I actually think, and I'll have to check and submit it to you, but I think Sandy did a deal with us a few years ago that she seemed happy to make. I'll have to check on that. I can only speak to the artists we're talking about. Mr. Green, the business has been really going down and down and down. We've been up against the ropes. We've been told so many times by tech companies, by live companies, that there'll be this platform disintermediation. Artists don't need you. We'll go directly to the platforms. We have been told it's like being told, what are you doing? Why do you exist? And we've bounced back, because when people for 15 years in an industry that you love, that you want to support artists, say, you're going out of date, you're behind, you're not listening, and it makes you lean into technology more. It makes you fight more. I've got a team of people, and I have to say there's often this depiction of Slytherin rather than a company of Gryffindors. And I have to say, these people who've for years been told you can't do...
I think that the performance has been more Hufflepuff today, to be honest with you, Mr. Joseph. But look, Damien Green, is that your final question?
Yes, it was. Thank you.
Thank you very much. That brings a close to our session. Thank you, Tony Harlow, Jason Lee, and David Joseph, for your evidence today. Order, order.
The proceeding has ended.
So that concludes these sessions from the 19th of January. In the next videos, we'll look at the sessions that started on the 4th of February 2021, and we will have Yvette Griffiths, who is executive and executive director of Jazz Refresh. We will have Paul Pacifico, who is chief executive of the Association of Independent Music, otherwise known as AIMS. And we will also have Rupert Skellett, who is the general counsel at the Beggars Group. So thanks so much for watching. See you in the next video. All the best now. Cheers. Bye-bye.